Hi everybody, welcome to Leadsintec Technology channel. This year, our team will update videos constantly about the PCBA industry. Today, I will introduce the topic, how to choose suitable solder paste for SMT manufacture. As you know, SMT manufacturing industry is a process that is soldering various components to PCB, so solder paste choice and quality become more important. To begin, I will introduce some simple knowledge about solder paste. Solder paste is a new material accompanying SMT production development. It is a complex system made of solder powder, flakes, and other additives, and blended. Of course, additive composition depends on its needs. Solder paste has a certain stiffness, so it can adhere to electronics components at a given position. While temperature rises, electrical components and PCB will be solid and form a permanent connection. As the volatilization of solvents and some additives, it can be said solder paste, like its glue, its function is to glue two separate objects together. So solder paste is the key point at PCBA manufacture. We must depend on SMT solder paste screw printer machine. If you have a big volume order, that's a needs condition to ensure quality and product are sufficient. If you have chosen an unsuitable material, not only increases manufacturing workloads but also affects the product's quality. That's why solder paste is so important reason. And then let's introduce different solder paste classification methods that are according to post-processing, additive, or practice manufacturing needs. Further, solder paste has three categories according to post-processing: low-mode resin clean, free clean, and water-soluble pastes. Low-mode resin clean is divided into two categories: resin activated and resin mildly activated. In the soldering process, this type of paste has performance better, cleaning speed, and granted good soldering effect. After work is finished, PCB's surface has more resin residues. The worker can clean it with detergent and the PCB will be shining without any residues, which guarantees PCB has good insolution resistance and various electronics properties. Technical tests will be passed. Free clean type. It was by soldering. PCB's surface is relatively smooth and has less residue and doesn't need re-cleaning and can pass various electronics properties technical tests, guarantee soldering quality at the same time, shorten the manufacturing process and boosted speed. Water-soluble pastes. Due to technical reasons at early manufacture, PCB surface remains is too much, badly influence product quality and electronic properties weren't ideal too, and then manufacturing mostly cleaning process with CFC, but it didn't friendly to the environment. Many countries have already been prohibited. For the leads, the water-soluble paste is common and it could be cleaned when soldering work is done, which reduces product cost and got the environmental request. Second, solder paste has various categories according to function, product, or manufacturer, which could be complicated, so you can choose it according to alloy composition, mass number, and viscosity. Alloy composition. In general, you can choose SN63 or PB37 solder alloy composition. It can match the soldering request to AG or PB plating product. You can choose SN62 or PB36 or AG2 solder paste. For low thermal shocking product, you can choose BI containing solder powder. Base. As low as particle size. It refers to the number of meshes per square inch of the screen in the actual tin powder production process. Most of the tin powder are collected with several layers of sieves with different meshes. Because each layer of sieve, the mesh size of the mesh is different, so the particle size of the tin powder passing through each layer of mesh is also different. The particle size of finally collected tin powder particle is also rational value. Therefore, when the mesh index of the solder paste is larger, the particle diameter of the tin powder in the solder paste is smaller, and when the mesh number is smaller, it means that the particles of the tin powder in the solder paste are larger. That is, when the manufacturer chose the solder paste according to its mesh index of it should be determined according to the distance between the solder joints with the smallest distance on the PCB. If there is a large distance, the solder paste with smaller mesh size can be chosen. On the contrary, when the distance between the solder paste is small, the solder paste with a larger mesh should be chosen. Generally, the practice size diameter is about 1/5 of the opening of the SMT stencil. In the SMT workflow, there is a process of moving, placing or handling the PCB in the middle from a laser stencil plating of the solder paste and attaching the complements to the reflow heating process. In this process, in order to ensure that the plated solder paste is not deformed and the complements attached to the PCB solder paste are not displaced, it is required that the solder paste should have good viscosity and retention time before the PCB enters the reflow soldering heating. Among them, the solder paste of 200 to 600 parts is more suitable for the production process requirement of the needle type or high degree of automation. The plating process requires a relatively high viscosity of the solder paste, so the viscosity of the solder paste used for the plating process is generally among the 600 to 1200 parts, suitable for manual or mechanical page stencil plating. High viscosity solder paste has the characteristics of good solder joint peeling effect and is more suitable for fine pitching plating, while low viscosity solder paste has the characteristics of faster falling, low to clearing, and tight serving during plating. Tips: the viscosity of the solder paste will change with stirring of the solder paste, and the viscosity will decrease when stirring. When stirring is stopped, the viscosity will return to its original state. This is important for how to choose different viscosities. The solder paste plays a very important role. In addition, the viscosity of the solder paste has a great relationship with temperature. Under normal conditions, its viscosity will gradually decrease with the increase of temperature. Finally, in practical manufacturing, we must consider other factors that could affect quality besides just mentioned factors above. 4 factors must be considered below. Of course, including supply stability, storage stability, plating stability, and soldering effect. Different batch solder paste quality has become instability derived from supply manufacturer load control factors had often changed. Of course, the instability of viscosity is a relatively common problem. It is unrealistic to require supplies to be completely indistinguishable. It is more realistic to require supplies to control this parameter within a certain range. Storage stability. We need to solder paste to have store quality, but in real world, solder paste stability will be changed since from purchase to take warehouse and keep the store a period of time. Plating stability. In the actual production process, The performance of reflow is also very important, which has a greater impact on quality. Soldering final effect. It mainly includes the following four aspects: better welding, BGA less perfusing, per head clamps, and plate stop recoverability. Solder welding is the part of a process in which metal is soldered bonds with metal on the printed circuit board or component. In the comparison to different solder pastes, you can find A is welding than B. In the BGA process, due to conditions, limited solder path, fusing compatibility has more important. Higher preheat clamps level, the less incidence of pore bridging. You can find the low clamps in the left picture, which is 0.3 mm or 0.2 mm, but the right picture has a clamps which is 0.4 mm or 0.3 mm. Excellent stop recovery can improve plating production efficiency to a certain extent. From this picture, you can see the difference curve after stopping for an hour. In summary, we can know that choosing the right solder paste should not only consider the characteristics of the solder paste itself and its impact on quality and production, but also consider various factors in mass production. Therefore, it is necessary for us to continuously record and summarize the impact of various supplied solder pastes on products in actual production. Our company pays special attention to the selection of solder paste. Our quality, production, engineering, and other departments regularly hold relevant meetings. The quality department will record and track the actual use of solder paste from various suppliers and monitor the use of solder paste. This is where our internal quality management system comes into play. For problems that arise, we will strictly implement improvements according to process and automatically ensure the quality of our customers' products. Because we know that providing customers with high-quality products is our mission, and it is also related to the company's long-term development. Leadsintec Technology Company Limited is an electronics manufacturing service provider located in Shenzhen, China, and has been operating since 2004 as an ISO 9001 certified electronics contract manufacturer. We offer a full range of services, including printed circuit board assembly, PCB component procurement, box building, testing, as well as cable and accessory service. Finally, please subscribe to our channel, click the like button if you like the video, and hit that bell button now after we'll remind you when we upload the new video. You could leave a message in the comment area if you have any questions. See you later.